Hello and welcome to Were You Not Entertained? I'm Daniel.
I'm Rachel.
And I'm James.
And we are going to be talking about Nomadland today as we continue diving into Oscar movies so that we can get them reviewed before the Oscars.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
This will be our third.
Is it three?
Yeah.
Only?
Is it really just three?
It's just third. It's just the third so far.
Ugh,
So this
it never ends.
this to me was like quintessential Oscar film.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was beautifully shot. It was
Oh, you didn't start with it has Frances McDormand.
Has
in it.
Frances
Right.
McDormand. It is beneath the surface a very compelling story, but wow, not really what I'd call entertaining.
I don't know. It was a journey. It was sad. It was heartfelt. I mean, there were like 3 actors in the movie?
I think there were
Everyone else was playing themselves.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
there was only 2.
And so it touches in a real way because it is a slice of life in our times, but it's shown in such a visually beautiful and artistic way, and there's a through line throughout it, and there is a story that's told. So I don't know. I mean, if you're talking about like popcorn movie, we're watching giant sharks eat helicopters, then no, I don't know how entertaining it was, but I was compelled. I definitely wasn't like checking my watch every 30 seconds.
Yeah. That's fair.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And that's what I was saying. It is a compelling story. It just isn't something you want to sit down and watch casually on a Saturday night.
It wasn't boring.
No.
It's not fun.
No.
Yeah, I'll give you that much. It's definitely not a fun movie.
It is.
No.
It's got some fun moments, but
It's very bleak.
I mean,
Oh,
this is a straight Oscar bait movie.
mhm.
And brilliantly executed. I thought it was really interesting. I had to research this a little bit because I was curious. So basically, Frances McDormand as Fern is kind of the only fictional part of this movie. She is not a real person, obviously. It's an actor. But everything
Right.
that
I
she
mean, she is a real
Sorry.
person.
she's a real person, but
She is acting in
she's
this
acting.
movie.
Yes, sorry. She is a fictional character in this movie.
Right.
Same thing with Dave.
Same with Dave. And so they sort of have a fictional storyline, but it's all based on a nonfiction book.
Mhm.
And most of the people in this are not actors. Some of them didn't even realize Frances McDormand was an actor. So
Right.
when she shares stories or heartfelt moments, some of them didn't realize that was from a script and they thought that was just her actual story. And I found that very interesting, and that she went through and did all of these things. She lived in a van during filming. She went and worked the jobs that most of the nomadic people featured in this film do work.
Mhm.
Yeah. Working at the Greasy Spoons or the Amazon or
Yeah.
parks.
The
Those kind of seasonal jobs that you can
produce
get.
stands. Yeah.
Doing the beet farming. It was beets, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Beet farming. Which looked,
I'm guessing for
Yeah.
ethanol.
I don't know. Maybe people just eat that many beets. I don't eat beets.
All right, those aren't the beets you see at the grocery store. Those are the great big old sugar beets. I'm pretty sure that was
Yeah, maybe ethanol.
probably ethanol refining, but yeah, no, I mean, man, this movie was bleak. This was one of those movies where I walked away and just was like, whew, I need a piece of cake. Like, man, I'm going to just go cry, eat. Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go eat my emotions.
Similar.
right, exactly. Like, it was just so sad. And, you know, it had its great moments and it had the happy times. And there was a lot of inspiration in the way that people, you know, overcame the situations that they were in, or, because even if somebody isn't, if they're out there because that's where they want to be, then it's also usually because they're running away from something else, or at least that's what it seemed like from most of the stories you heard them in the movie.
Yeah. Well, and that's the
Um,
other thing, is that it did seem to be more people that were out there because they wanted to be out there. Probably because they're running away from something, but not like, I am 100% destitute and this is the only thing that I can do. Like, they're working jobs and they're moving around, and obviously Nomadland, so they're nomadic. But it's not like they're not like backpacking around a city begging for change on the corner. It's not that kind of setting, I guess.
Yeah.
Right.
For the most part, it felt like a very intentional lifestyle. They weren't actively searching for apartments or homes and unable to get them. It was more logical, I guess, to live in a van and also to not be tied down to any specific place.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of them had those lives before, and you know, got chewed up by the system,
Right.
and decided they're going to take their lives into their own hands and live on the road. And, like, it's respectable, and at the same time, it's a counterculture, you know.
Yeah.
As reflected in the way that Fran's sister would speak to her.
Right.
And it's an interesting perspective, because it's also a side of the world that, unless you are directly adjacent to it, you don't see it. And it's so easy to get missed because it's not the kind of thing that gets put in movies most of the time. It's not the kind of thing that gets put on the news. It's often covered in things like documentaries.
Right.
But you typically don't get the as much Oscar recognition for the documentary category,
And not something that's looked at in a true to life style like this was. It's either looked down on or glamorized.
Right.
And this was not making it
Unless
into
it's a documentary.
Right. But as far as movies and news articles, this wasn't trying to make it into like Into the Wild. This wasn't some Odyssey or something like that. This is just a very genuine depiction.
Yeah, it seemed to have more of an existence than anything else. It wasn't they were sending a message. Obviously, I mean, that's what a lot of movies do. They were giving you a message. They were telling you real people's stories. They were trying to convey something with Fern's character. But it didn't really feel like it had like some sort of agenda to make you feel sorry for these people or anything like that. It was just existence, which was interesting to me. Like, they didn't try to put a Hollywood spin on like any of it.
It wasn't colored, if you will.
Right.
I did feel like they walked that line very cleanly.
Yeah.
Because I didn't walk away from the movie going, man, I want to be a nomad. But at the same time, I also didn't walk away going, God, I can't believe there are people who are nomads. Like, it was a perfectly finely walked line of, I feel like I have a better understanding of the way some people live than I did before I sat down 2 hours ago.
Right.
And I think sometimes that's a really powerful message in a movie.
Definitely.
Because it's not often that you get that.
Yeah, exactly. It gives you a glimpse, I guess,
Mhm.
at another way to do things.
Right.
And kind of how they thought, I guess, about things in general, but kind of using the whole what was it? The yoke of the dollar.
Yeah.
Kind of that terminology that.
Slave to capitalism.
Yeah, exactly. This seems to be, whether you agree or disagree with it, this is kind of their way to fight the system, right? They have the freedom that they want. They don't have to stick around and do some meaningless job that they don't want to do just so that they can pay their bills. And I think that's kind of how it's how it was depicted anyway, is ultimate freedom.
Right.
Because you can do what you want and you can live how you want.
Most of them spent the first half of their lives trying to chase that American dream and have the spouse and the 2.5 kids and the picket fence, and it either didn't work out or they didn't want it anymore once they got it. And
right. It was
this
ripped
is
out
a
from
way
under
that they
them,
can
yeah, exactly. It's them kind of taking charge of their own lives in a manner.
I'm not going to be part of your system.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Threw it on the ground.
What you think, I'm stupid? But it was also very obvious that they all had their own issues to deal with. Right. And this is kind of a way of,
who doesn't?
Well, yeah, but it was kind of escapism as opposed to, so maybe like watching too many movies or playing too many games or doing too many drugs or all these things that people use to escape the reality that they're in. This seemed similar to that in some aspects. They've changed how they lived to not have to deal with the things that they were dealing with.
Right. Instead of constantly fighting to overcome the next hurdle, they just said, I'm not going to race.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Which there's nothing wrong with it. That's what makes you happy. And that's, I think, how they depicted it, which was good.
I was really conflicted. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
As to how I wanted this movie to end.
Yeah, that's fair. I was on the fence.
Yeah. Dave was so great. He was so wholesome. I loved him, man.
Yeah.
That guy, he was so sweet and such a good dude. Like, that poor guy, when he dropped those plates, I nearly cried. I was like, oh man, that sucks.
Yeah.
That was terrible.
Yeah. But I appreciate that they did not have them together, because I feel like while I want that, that's me wanting my Hollywood ending, the same way that I like comedies, not tragedies, most of the time.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even call it a tragedy because they didn't get together. She didn't stay. It just is.
Yeah.
The idea of putting a comedy or a tragedy label on something is saying that the movie is over, that the story is finished. And that was more of a movie about life and not about the end of a book.
Yeah.
And the stories never finish in life.
Even though this is based on a book.
It was based on a life.
Yeah.
Just
say it.
It's based on a nonfiction book, so it is more of a slice. It's just a year in this ongoing thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm with you. It felt like that. That it was more of just a looking through a window, I guess. into her existence.
It was a glimpse at a year.
And then closing the curtains. And that was it.
Out of a multi-year, obviously a multi-year life.
Yeah.
You know, what can you discern the most about a person in however long this was?
Yeah, I'd say about a year because it was Amazon.
Time.
The 2 hours, yeah.
Yeah, in the 2 hours that covers a year. Right.
Time?
So that's kind of the thing, right? It's a 2-hour movie that covers the year of someone's life.
Yeah.
So the most that you can get out of that. And I think they did a really good job of giving you the information, I guess, that they wanted to give you, but but still, it was a sneak peek at a different life, a different way of living, at a different community. And that's really what I think. It's really what I think the importance of the Nomadland, title. Sometimes you think if you're living in a van, maybe being nomadic is like an individual, like you're out there by yourself roaming around.
Right.
But it was definitely a community. One of the things that, and I've forgotten his name, but one of the things that he said was that he doesn't say goodbye to people. He just says they'll see him down the road. And that is because of the fact that it is a community.
Mm-hmm.
They all they don't necessarily move together, but they all kind of congregate with each other when they find each other in the same places.
Right.
Which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah.
You don't feel so alone, even though you're in a van by yourself.
Right.
It's the best of both worlds.
Yeah. Exactly. And then you got people like Swanky, who is like really about taking care of her van.
Mm-hmm.
Like she took care of her van like people take care of their yards.
Yeah.
She took to make pride. Their house look nice. Yeah, exactly. No chip paint. No, it's like, no, we gotta make this thing look. And it did. It looked brand new.
Yep.
It looked brand new.
Yeah, it was a very
driving a white van in the desert too.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, was there anything else we wanted to cover before we ended up getting into favorite scenes?
I don't think so. Did you have anything else?
No, I don't think so.
All right. Well, I'm going to go first.
Okay.
Because I don't go first very often. So,
sure.
My favorite scene was when she ended up going back to her hometown.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not her hometown. The home that she had.
Empire.
Yeah.
Empire. Yes. Where her and her husband had lived.
Yeah.
Right.
Because you had heard so many bits and pieces of it throughout the movie, it gave it a lot of context. Both in what you were seeing, like when she went to the office.
Mm-hmm.
And also it kind of gave context back. It finally made real all the stories she had been telling. Not to say she wasn't believable or anything like that, but there's a catharsis to it that for both, obviously the character, but also for the audience. And I think it was a necessary part because she started on the road and had been on the road for years. It seemed like at that point in time.
Yeah.
That flashbacks would have felt really fake and bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
but it kind of functioned as a flashback because you could feel her memories going through her head
Yeah,
Right.
for sure.
as she went to those places. And so I don't know. It was it was very close to the end of the movie, and so it was a nice kind of bookend for me.
Yeah, I think it was.
It felt like closure.
Yeah. And I don't know why, but that was it. There was virtually zero dialogue. I don't think she even speaks a word throughout that whole scene.
No, I don't think so.
But man, it was just really moving, and it took advantage of a lot of the wonderful cinematography that we got to experience in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely did.
So that was my choice.
Yeah,
It's a good
it's
one.
a good one.
Thank you.
It's good.
What about you, Rachel? What
Mine,
was your favorite scene?
I'm going to have to go with a scene that happened, I guess, to sort of inspire the one you chose, actually. It is her conversation with, is his name Bob? Was that the name of the guy leading the
I think so.
the rally or whatever it was called?
I've been trying to remember that the entire time we've talked.
Well,
The fact that they don't have pictures on IMDb is not helping me.
super apologies if that's the wrong name, but it is the man that sort of runs the community, I guess, that they have their once a year meet. And it was the scene where they're sitting together talking about what brought them to that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And for him, it was his son's suicide. And it pushed him into this nomad life where he could help others. And even though they're nomads, he can still sort of foster a sense of community and take care of them.
Right.
And that was
And give them life skills.
Yeah, and that was sort of his closure. And so Fern talks about the loss of her husband and empire and admits that maybe she held on to what she thought was life there for too long.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like that was the moment that sort of not woke her up, because obviously she was already very aware, but the moment that finally pushed her to go back and get rid of the storage unit and close that chapter, I guess.
Yeah.
So I thought that was just it was a very powerful moment for both sides. It furthered her story a lot. And then also just to hear Bob's story, since he's not an actor, it's just his genuine life story.
Yeah, his actual story.
Yeah, I thought it was really good. It was one of those sort of powerful people moments.
Mm-hmm.
It's the only time I cried in the movie.
There you go.
Fair enough.
When he was talking about his son.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
There's no way I was able to hold the tears back. Makes my eyes wet just thinking about it. He was like Santa Claus talking about it. This is the saddest thing in the world.
Yes, it was a very sad, moving moment.
Well, until I
It
I
was beautiful
realized
too, though.
that he was telling his real story, I was like, man, this guy.
Where's his Oscar?
He's killing it.
It's just like some random stranger that they're talking to. That yeah, he can really act.
Right.
Oh no, it's real. Okay, well, fair. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You do deserve that. You lived it.
Yeah.
Yep.
That is real.
Yeah, exactly.
But that was mine.
Good choice.
Very good choice. It was on the list.
Yeah.
What about you, Daniel? What was your favorite scene?
My favorite scene was it's kind of a scene, but culminates in a different one. Is with Swanky when she's explaining to Fern about her cancer and how it's metastasized and moved to her brain, and not necessarily her being okay with it, but her being at peace with it, I guess. And
acceptance.
Yeah. Her talking about her going back to Alaska to maybe experience some of the things that she had experienced before that brought, I guess, the joy and beauty to her life. Some of those memories that you never forget, some of those memories you never let go of. So that conversation, but then the culmination in the video that she sent Fern, where she was back out on her kayak. And this was, this has got to be months later. She's back out on her kayak and she's at the cliff that she was talking about with all the birds.
The swallows.
Yeah.
Yep.
And how at peace she felt previously. And you can kind of see the same thing in the video that she sent her. Yeah, I thought it was really cool to have that in there.
Yeah.
Talk about, life and beauty, I guess. The things around us.
Yeah. And instead of an anger at what life currently was, she just had this great appreciation for what she had had.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That was definitely, that was a good one.
Yeah. Man. There are a lot of good ones in this. There was the throwing a rock into the fire.
Yeah.
Yep.
This is a celebration of her. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Yeah, it's one of those movies. So it's
the conversation on the bed with her sister.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was very.
Or going to her sister's house. That whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
That was a great one. Man, it's a good movie.
It is. We do these podcasts and we try to sound upbeat about a lot of these things because we want people excited to see them, right? Not just be like,
right, yeah.
But it's really hard to sound upbeat about this movie.
This movie is heavy, but it is so good.
It is a really good movie. It is. It is not a popcorn movie. If you're a glutton for punishment like we are, and once a year you decide to watch Oscar movies until you see your life devolving around you, it fits in that category. Like there's a few movies
it's one of those
you can pick every year.
happy I watched.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we almost always feel that way about Oscar films. Every once in a while, there's one that just wasn't enjoyable to watch and didn't strike a chord or anything.
Yeah.
But more often than not, it's like this, where it is so heavy, but it is so beautiful and compelling, and it makes you feel. Maybe it's not what you want to feel, but my God, there's emotion.
Oh, yeah.
An ocean of emotion.
Yeah.
And then you say that and you're just like, ruin.
Yep. Moment spoiled.
But
well, since the moment's spoiled, I think we'll go ahead and call it right about there.
Yep.
Anything else you want to drop in before we get out?
Nope.
Awesome. Well, hopefully you enjoyed our coverage of it as much as you will this movie, but maybe our coverage is a little bit more upbeat and cheery,
I
a
don't,
little less somber and depressing.
I don't know about that.
Maybe. Maybe not. Anyway, please go online and like and subscribe and make sure to join us next time on Were You Not Entertained?